Hello, ladies and gentlemen, or cats and dog, whoever's watching. Vaughn Jean here. Let's just get right into it. I want to ask, are you implying the inverse? You know, when you hear things like become unrecognizable and fix your life in this amount of months, or, reinvent yourself, and all these other what I call silly terms, you always want to think about whether or not you're saying that the opposite is true. Now, not to sound too over the top, right? Basically, when I think of become unrecognizable, what you might be implying on the back end of that is, hey, I don't like the way I'm recognized right now, so I feel obligated to change something. Same thing with reinventing yourself. You know, what's wrong with the current you? And I understand that we all have certain things we want to improve or fix, or maybe you have a lot of bad habits that you would like to change. But this whole I don't know how to really coin the term, but like this whole thing where you have to completely molt your shell like a lobster or something and become a new creature, that's not really going to help you out. Now, none of what I'm saying is actually correct, right? It's just me thinking about what I think this does to some people's mindsets, at least based on the conversations that I have and the way that I see people perceive themselves. And my big problem with timelines, when I hear things like 6 months to a new you, or, 3 months and no one's gonna know who you are and all this other stuff. What if you think you're following all the directions and all that time passes and nothing changes? You're still making the same amount of money. Maybe you wanted to lose weight or get in shape and you look exactly the same or perform exactly the same. Nothing in your life has changed yet. 3 to 6 months or whatever has passed. Typically, when people don't meet these arbitrary timelines, they end up blaming themselves. And I do have a very big problem with this. This is why I don't like these whole like big switches in life where you want to reinvent yourself and all this other stuff. Also, one of the big problems that I think this mindset does is that it makes you create a negative relationship with your goals, hobbies, tasks, or whatever you want to do in life, right? Which to me is one of the quickest ways to sabotage any potential that you may have. If you have a negative association with whatever you're doing, whether that be just making money or improving at guitar or piano or language learning like we do on this channel, that is not going to set you up for success. And in fact, it's probably going to take you further back than you want to be. Now, what I am not saying, I'm not saying whatever the current you is, just accept it and you're totally okay despite all the nonsense you may have going on. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying to be delusional about your life. What I would offer is and again, this sounds over the top, but see it as a journey where you want to reach this status where you're good at everything and everything's maxed out, but it's a progress to get there rather than seeing it as you reaching a certain status or point, or you checked a certain amount of boxes in Notion or your habit tracker and all of a sudden you magically just transform into a new person and people don't recognize you anymore. You're not a Pokemon. Last time I checked, you're not going to reach a level and suddenly evolve. If you are a Pokemon, then great. Make sure you subscribe. But you're not going to really change like that. See it as a journey to where you're just improving on a lot of the things that you would like to improve on. To kind of let this sink in, one of the first points I want to make in this part is that vanity and success metrics will not satisfy you. And I personally know this from experience. There's no amount of money that you make or checks in the boxes. Checks in the boxes. Checking your habit tracking boxes. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. English is difficult for me. There's no amount of that's going to make you really satisfied if you're always trying to make that your point of success. It's not going to reinvent you in a sense. Again, try not to jump to the other extreme here. Success does feel good. When you make more money, it feels good. And when you check your boxes, it feels good. But I just want to clarify that these are not going to make you reinvented, okay? You're just the same person who's now making more money, checking more boxes, and all that. Now let's talk about some signs that you may be damaged by this mindset, trying to reinvent yourself and all that. What is your relationship with rest? A great way to tell if you're doing way too much to reinvent yourself, and this is kind of one of the topics that I talk about in several videos because I don't think we can get enough of it really, is, if you have a problem taking a day off, or maybe you can't do something that day and you're just really stressed out about it, or you try to double down the next day, this is a very big sign that you may not have a good relationship with what you're doing and just general productivity or getting your things done overall. I, for example, play guitar and piano every single day. I can't remember the last time I missed a day, to be honest. But at any point, if I take 3 days off, it will not bother me. And maybe I have, but I just don't remember at this point in time. It just doesn't bother me because I have an extremely good relationship with guitar and piano. Now, in the past, I did not have a good relationship with piano. And I used to feel the need to double down if I missed a day or I felt lazy that day. I would try to make up for it, which would ultimately sabotage me because now I'm doing more than I could do in the first place. And then it would continue to make me have a negative association with piano practice. You may be doing this with your goals in life or trying to reach a certain metric and so on, or trying to reinvent yourself and all this other stuff. If you have a problem resting or taking a day off, or if things come up and they derail your progress, it really bothers you and all that in a bad way, then you might want to check this. And I have to say this one more time. I'm not saying be okay with your life falling apart. I would also ask if you engage in numbing behavior. I'm not going to get into what those are. We know what they are. But to list a few: drinking, partying, all that kind of stuff, things that make you feel like you need to escape from the current you. You can add gooning to that list. I don't know if that's YouTube appropriate. Please do not demonetize me for that. But if you're engaging in numbing behavior consistently, you might not have a good relationship with the things you want to do. Otherwise, you would be doing those instead of numbing behavior. Okay, let's talk about some potential solutions and ideas that I think will work. And this is not an either or thing. You can pick however many you want, apply your own. These are just things that I think will help you create a good relationship with the things you want to do. Most of my solutions are based around what I would call identity. Again, I'm not trying to sound over the top in this video. You guys know I have a big problem with that. But your identity is the reason you can either do things or you can't do things. So, number one, you can see yourself the way God sees you. This is my recommendation, but you don't have to take that route if you don't want to. I don't believe in slapping people upside the head with Bible verses and all that. I like to just offer what I think, and you can take whatever you want from this channel. So I will put some verses on the screen that I recommend you read if you're into reading the Bible. This way you can see yourself the way God sees you. The next one is to get good at things just for the pure excitement of doing it. And this is a journey in and of itself because you need to relearn how to develop a childlike curiosity for things. For example, when I learn languages or, instruments, piano, guitar, whatever, I don't have a school-based curriculum towards those things. I have a genuine curiosity to understand everything about it. When I was learning Japanese, I had an obsession with vocabulary words, which is why you'll hear me talk about that in most of my videos, because I think vocabulary words is the limiter to how much you can use the language. So I like to learn a lot, way more than I actually need and ever will use in real life. But it's just something that I have a childlike curiosity for. Same with guitar and piano. I'm obsessed with knowing almost everything about music theory. Notes, triads, tritone substitutions, secondary dominants, how they work in real music, everything. What scales fit on what chords, what modes sound good under certain contexts and all that. I have a deep obsession with all that, but I don't have an obligation to do it. I hope that makes sense. In a sense, I can really stop doing all this at any point. I could just completely stop and never do it again. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because I enjoy it so much and I enjoy the challenge and the mystery of trying to figure all these things out, it keeps me interested in something the way a child would be interested in something. And what this does for me is it creates a really good relationship with the things I like to do. I even approach things that make me money this same way, like software engineering. Yes, there are obligations, but at the same time, when I have the basis covered, I have a freedom to explore other things. And because I have that curiosity, I often find that I can do a lot more than I would if I had a deep obligation to, or like trying to fit into some other metric. I'm going to talk more about creating a healthy relationship with the things you like to do in the future. So stay tuned for that. The third point under this is that you should find reasons that are not vanity or approval seeking to accomplish certain things. Now, what I recommend and how I do this is you write down vanity-based reasons for whatever you like to do, and then write down what I call true reasons or better reasons. You could call it whatever you want. But here are my examples. We'll take guitar and piano, and we'll say vanity is to look cool for other people and impress others. You know, everyone thinks I'm cool, blah, blah, blah. The result of this is that it's short-lived and you're never going to get enough validation. I'm probably going to repeat that several times, by the way. However, the true reason is to play the ideas that are in my head, like this backing track you're hearing, play music from artists, movies, anime, video games, and all that I like. The next one, I would say being in shape or being athletic or muscular, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to reach as far as a physical goal. Vanity, of course, can be getting attention, flexing, literally, and seeking the approval of other people. Again, this is short-lived and you're never going to get enough of that validation. The true reason, at least in my case, that I am somewhat athletic is because I love combat sports. I did it for a very long time. Good energy, longevity, and everything else in life is just flat out easier when you're strong and athletic. I'm just gonna be honest. The next one is speaking other languages. So vanity would be to look cool for other people. Another one is false intellectual superiority, which is kind of an over-the-top term again. I think that's the 4th time I've said over the top in this video. And what I mean by that is like you try to appear smart to a bunch of people who truly don't care. But that's a topic for another day. And again, this is short-lived and you're never gonna get enough validation. The true reason that I learn languages, at least, is to experience new cultures, people, and I pretty much unlock a new world. Not to sound like Aladdin or nothing, but I unlock a new Google. I can watch content in that language without the use of subtitles, like watching anime and all that. And I wouldn't be able to do this if I were doing language learning for vain reasons. At least I don't think I would be able to do it. I can go on, but you get the point. Try to find whatever you like to do. It could be taking pictures, collecting rocks, trying to make more money, going to the gym, whatever you want to do. I don't know why I said collecting rocks, but whatever. Just, I'm gonna leave that in the video. But take whatever you like to do, put the vanity side down, write that down, get as crazy as you want, and then find true reasons to do it and try to focus more on those. Now, let me be clear here. Do not ignore vanity or pretend that you don't care. Just don't let it be a priority. I'll be completely honest. I have a certain athletic look when I'm training, and I don't like to pay attention to how people are perceiving me. I block out everyone at the gym pretty much. But when certain people do think I look cool, or let's just be honest, when women come up and say like, oh, you look a certain way, blah, 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 it does feel good. But at no point is that a priority. That's all I'm saying. You don't want to pretend like you don't care about vanity, because then you would just be lying. But you always want to keep the true reason as your priority. And if you feel yourself slipping, which may happen at some point, if you feel yourself slipping and the tables are turning, just flip it back over. I don't want to ramble on too much in this video, so if there's a part 2, I'll probably make that and just add it onto this. Anyhow, if you want to stick around, please hit the subscribe button and the bell and all that cool stuff and stick around. If you like this video, leave a like. It does help me out a lot. If you don't do any of those, I will send this to come and get you. Love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.